Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another Axel 72 video, and in today's video I'm going to be giving my prediction for the Azim versus Gustavo Lemos fight. And so if you are new around here and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so, like the video if you do indeed like the video, and feel free to join the Patreon as well. It's not long left to use code Axel72 to get 75% off for the whole of January. And if you are wanting to use the Patreon, you can use it to request any kind of content. I mean, this is a Patreon requested video, and it's also going to be out on early release as well before getting posted onto YouTube. So you can use the Patreon for that. You can also use it for betting tips or advice or just general chats with people in the boxing community. And again, I appreciate all the support in which I've had with it so far. Also, if you're wanting to get back into the gym and maybe you're going and working hard through some New Year's resolutions at the moment, if you're wanting to get yourself some new gym wear, head over to Grind Active Kinetics. Again, if you use code Axel10 throughout the whole of January, you'll get 10% off, and both of them will be linked in the description. Thank you very much, and let's get straight into this one. And I think Azim, obviously this is the kind of another fight for him to look good on a boxer card on a big kind of occasion, and he, I think, recently has gained a fan base, or at least gotten a good recognition for just how good of a prospect he is, because before his last fight he was main eventing boxer cards, looking good, but I don't feel like the actual kind of more casual boxing community were kind of fully sold on the hype of him yet. But after being on the Ubek Ben undercard, and yes, Scoby wasn't really what I expected. He didn't really look as good as what I thought. I thought he was quite surprisingly bad, but Azim was able to dominate and then get the stoppage in the end as well. And of course, that's what the casual fans are going to be wanting to see, the stoppages. And he could have easily just, I think there was certain points where maybe he was very comfortably kind of cruising, and he could have carried on doing that, but then he turned it up to be able to get the stoppage. And again, it's nice. It was dominating. It looked really good, and it looked clean and crisp and sharp as well. And again, I think it did really gather a bit of hype about him, because of course, if you haven't been watching him on these boxer shows, which previously have been on Sky, so it's not on the zone like a lot of the other kind of big shows are, then you might have not really known too much about Azim, or really cared too much, or thought maybe he was an overhyped prospect. But from being on a big DAZN show, it's a pay-per-view, a huge event in Eubank Ben 2, and dominating, it was again a really good performance. And I think, again, like I was saying, he has gained now a good recognition off of it. And I do find it interesting though that, Azim, now he's meant to be kind of stepping into world title fights soon, and he has signed with Boxer, who kind of have said that they are against putting on any events outside of the UK. They're with BBC, and that kind of limits them. They're only doing a certain amount of shows contractually at the moment anyway, unless they can prove that they can put on great events. And again, I don't know if that was the best in the way of a career move. You've seen the likes of a Ben Whittaker, or a Caroline Dubois. They've gone away from Boxer and they've gone to more worldwide level kind of promoters. And again, you would think that Azim was going to do the same thing. I think there was talks of him at one point, almost joining Queensberry, but instead, they stuck with Boxer. I have a level of respect for that, I suppose, as well, because of the fact that, of course, quite a few people have kind of moved away from Boxer with this whole transition over to the BBC. But Azim, as a bigger name, which he has been, and probably the fact that he is arguably one of the biggest, if not, well, he probably is the biggest boxing star with Boxer at the moment. And I guess maybe that's why he wanted to stay, because he knew that with Ben Whittaker going, he would be most likely, the full focus of Boxer. And, of course, there's talks now with him and that kind of possible Dalton Smith fight, with, of course, Dalton Smith now being champion. But, it's a big fight. It's a huge fight. I would love to see it for a UK boxing fan. But, they've been calling for it for a while, Dalton Smith. I was there when Eddie Hearn was, post-fight really calling for it. I think it was after the Cepeda fight or the Maxwell fight, and obviously it didn't happen then. But I just have a feeling that one of them will lose before they end up facing each other. I think, Dalton Smith is going to have some tough title defences. He could possibly lose and then maybe build his way back up and get an Azim fight, or, Azim could possibly lose going for a title, or again possibly winning a title and then lose, and again then they'll be more willing to risk a fight like that, which again it could happen now, but I just doubt it actually will happen until, at least in my opinion, I think one of them will lose, and then possibly we'll actually get talks about this happening. And then of course this fight is a good test for Azim. I think it is a step up for sure. I think stylistically it's a difficult clash for Azim, and Azim's talked about wanting to go down the IBF route to get to Hitchins' belt, and I think that's smart. I mean, of course, if he can get a mandatory spot with the IBF, he is basically almost guaranteed a title shot, but also if he beats Lemos in better fashion than that of Hitchins, I mean, it's definitely a good look on him, because, of course, Lemos caused Hitchins a lot of issues. I mean, Hitchins was basically just hugging Lemos throughout the entirety of their fight. He was really struggling to handle him, and it really wasn't a good look for then Hitchins to then go on to a title fight. But again, if Azim's able to dominate, able to win in impressive fashion and get stoppage as well, then you can start to create the kind of debate and argument that he does deserve a title shot, because he's in a decently ranked spot with the IBF. And I mean, of course, Lemos got KO'd early against Keyshawn Davis. Keyshawn Davis made pretty easy work of that fight. Obviously, Davis was struggling with the weight, so he was definitely coming in quite heavy, post weigh-in into that fight, you wouldn't have imagined. But, of course, like I say, nonetheless, he was able to knock him out with quite a bit of ease, and with quite a cold kind of single shot knockout, and possibly with the accuracy and the sharpness of Azim, he might be able to do similar, because he's been able to get knockdowns against opponents in similar ways to how Davis knocked out Lemos. He was able to knock down Lipinets in a similar kind of way. Lemos does actually have a random but good win on his resume against Lee Selby. He actually TKO'd him kind of into retirement. He had quite a bit of a break kind of pre the Hitchins fight. I think he had one fight before, but then he was out for a good couple of years, I think. And then just around 2022, I think it was, he KO'd Lee Selby. And of course, Lee Selby is a former world champion who was coming off pretty close fights. So I think it was like Kambosos Jr. and Josh Warrington. I think I might be right, I might be wrong, but I think I'm right with that. And then, the fact that Lemos was able to TKO him in Argentina. To get that fight in Argentina, I think it's a bit random in the first place. But like I say, to be able to TKO him and push him into retirement, it's a good win. It's a good name to have on his resume, and I think that's an underrated, performance from Lemos, in which people, haven't really talked about because of what's happened with the Hitchins fight and the Davis fight. To speak about both fighters individually, though, Azim as a fighter, he's sharp, reactive. He's pretty much made a brand from being a sharp, reactive, accurate puncher. He's, I think, best at a mid-range, because when he's in close, I think he's just a bit too tense at times. But at a mid-range, I think that kind of tense, sharp and crispness about him can work, and works better, in my opinion. He's got good feints. He carries good power. I think he does have single shot knockout power, I believe, but I just don't think that, it's rare to land that single shot knockout, whoever you are. So even if you have that power to do so, I think it's always going to be difficult to do so. But nonetheless, like I say, he's able to dominate enough to be able to knock out most of his opponents. And I mean, any kind of more world level of a step up he's had recently, he's been able to win via knockout. I mean, O'Hara Davis, Lipinets, Scoby, all these guys. Yes, perhaps they weren't really on the best of forms, and they didn't really look the best come the fight, but, he was able to dismantle them and still get them out of there. He changes levels well. He's got good hand speed, with the change in levels, actually, I want to make sure that he isn't shooting body shots low. I mean, in the Lipinets fight, I think he almost got deducted 2 points. He might have, but in the Scoby fight, he was able to work the body shots very well. So again, he's just got to be aware of that. He's got very good fundamentals and punch technique, in my opinion. The way that he lands and places his punches is very impressive, and he works openings very well. His hands, I believe, have started to stay kind of higher for longer. There was times in certain fights where I think his hands have been able to drop down. He's not really been punished for that. There was a couple of occasions in which Lipinets was able to actually catch him with a shot, but again, it wasn't really anything of effect because, you know, he was able to just respond straight back with better work. But I think in that Scoby fight, even though it was incredibly easy for him really, because Scoby was just kind of there to be hit, he still kept his hands up higher for longer, which I thought was quite impressive and good to see. He's definitely got a good youthfulness about him. I mean, he's able to maintain a similar good output from the beginning to the end of a 12-round fight, and he plants his feet very well with a good strong base that he holds. Negatives about him, I think he wants to fight at a mid-range, and if he is fighting in close, again, like I say, I think he can look tense, and if he gets caught as well, I think he can look a bit tense as well. I don't really think he wants that kind of physical or messy type of fight. He, of course, will probably have to deal with that with this Lemos fight, but again, I don't think he wants to be dealing with that. He can stay in range too long, in my opinion. He doesn't use many combos more than just kind of 2 punch combinations. Often he is, like I say, very tight and tense when he's throwing, and of course, like I say, he can get away with it because that carries power and, you know, his accuracy is really good, but he's not flowing with the multiple punch combinations that perhaps could get opponents out there early. He can't always push you back, and again, that'll be interesting to see if he can do that to Lemos. He can lose, you know, awareness and can switch off a bit when he's circling off, and that can lead him to getting caught. And Lemos, of course, like I say, wanting to be on the front foot and actually does cut off the ring quite well. It'll be interesting to see if he can catch Azim if he's trying to just relax, you know, and circle off with ease. He can, like I say, shoot body shots low, and he stands quite tall in close as well, and again, that can lead to him getting caught. Lemos, as a fighter, he puts on quite intense pressure. I mean, it's not just, you know, messy, sloppy pressure where he's just kind of throwing his hands all over the place. You know, he is launching himself in a bit and he is throwing handbags, but he is keeping a good consistent pressure. He's not just continually running in, but he can rush onto shots. But when he's at his best, he's not doing that. But of course, he kind of did last time against Davis. He wants to bully you typically. He doesn't really respect his opponents. And again, you know, Hitchins is known for having a really good jab. He was able to get past that with ease. He pins you on the ropes and will throw, you know, put on a high output if you're there. And of course, like I say, he does, I believe, actually cut off the ring well. He gets low to, you know, get himself in close and make it difficult for opponents to land on him. He can frustrate you. He'll make it physical. But also, you know, he can handle a physical fight. He's not going to be smothering you, but he's going to be, you know, getting the shoulder. He's going to be trying to push you back. But he can deal with a physical fight as well. He can, you know, get out of them smothering spots well and, you know, work out of the clinch well. And, you know, of course, that's what he had to do against Hitchins in their fight a lot. He's got a tight guard, he works body to head nicely, and he moves you around when he's throwing because of the fact that, like I say, he's putting his whole body into his work. Negatives about him, I mean, of course, he does rush onto quite a lot, and of course, you know, that has been seen, and he can be overconfident, kind of rushing forwards, and I think that was probably the problem when he fought Davis because of how much success he had against Hitchins. He just felt that he could do the same against Davis, and obviously it didn't work out for him. He can get caught straight for his guard. I mean, you know, there was moments when he was just, you know, stopping and just kind of slowing down, and then, you know, them moments were what was allowing Hitchins to have enough success to actually win the fight. I felt like if he didn't have these moments of just, you know, like I say, stopping, and just kind of standing in front of you, getting caught with shots, like the jab, like the uppercut coming through, he would have won, in my opinion, against Hitchins. He can be made to reach and does lunge him quite a lot. Of course, he's been hurt. He has moments when he stops throwing, like I mentioned. He makes obvious he's going to throw the overhand, in my opinion. I mean, I don't think Azim's movement is amazing, but I would hope that he would be able to get out of the way of them. He's not actually physically that strong due to his size. He wants to be physical, or, he can deal with being physical, and he wants to try and be bullish, but he's not actually physically that strong. His accuracy isn't the best when he's just kind of swinging. He doesn't really offer much defensive movement, and he's almost always there to be hit. I mean, if you can, deal with the pressure that you're under, then you can pretty much always land something on him. And who do I think is going to win this fight? I think that Azim's going to win via TKO in round 5. I think there's going to be possibly a few wild, moments within the first couple of rounds. I would like to see Lemos still try and start fast and not be affected by the Davis loss, because he has actually been able to get a win since then. And, of course, that should have hopefully rebuilt his confidence a bit more on the big stage. But like I say, I would still believe that Azim will be able to win. I think he'll be able to time him probably onto a nice uppercut against, kind of similarly to how Keyshawn Davis did it, but just take a little bit longer to do so. And like I say, still be able to hurt Lemos. And, yes, I don't think he'll be that comfortable on the back foot continuously fighting. He might get caught a bit, and it could be, a harder fight if it goes the full 12-round distance. I think it could be a much harder fight. I mean, I think Azim's last 3 opponents have kind of all been slow fighters that haven't really threw that much. Not, any fault of his own. It's just kind of what has happened. I think just because of how well he's been able to nullify them. But I think Lemos, hopefully, will be able to give him the test of that pressure. And again, I think he'll be able to deal with it and deal with it pretty comfortably. And then he can go on to fight. I mean, obviously, possibly that Hitchins fight is there. Could be a difficult fight to make. And again, with Boxer, I don't know if they'd be willing to put him on a big, American show unless His Excellency's involved. So, other fights like a Duarte fight, possibly, but again, then they have to work with another American broadcaster. Or Beryaslanov is ranked well with the IBF. He's a Canadian fighter, undefeated, 20-0. He just got a win against Lipinets himself, which I think was one of the bigger wins in his resume. But again, he's technically ranked higher than that of Azim, and that could be an easy fight to be made with, no other promoters being involved. And again, that could be possibly made into a number 1 mandatory spot with the IBF. And again, that's what you want for a fighter to be mandatory with the IBF. Like I mentioned, that will pretty much guarantee him to get an IBF title shot. But yeah, that is it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like the video if you did, like the video, subscribe if you're new. And thanks for watching.